Welcome to After Work Conversations with Manic and the Jerk. I am the Manic Genius.
And I'm the sophisticated jerk.
Hey, what you got on the what's the topic of discussion for today's dialogue?
Well, today's a pretty good one. We did mention in like some of the, prior, I'll say like podcasts that we were going to start hitting on like career, job focused, business type stuff. So today, one of the topics I kind of wanted to touch is why you're not advancing in your career. And originally I did want to title it like, why do you suck at your job? But I wanted to tone it down a bit. So if you want to go ahead and kick this one off first with this first question.
Why you're not advancing in your career? This is, I mean, you're okay. I'm gonna speak directly to the camera. You're not advancing in your career because you probably suck. You're probably lazy. You probably, have a lack of ambition. You probably are distracted. There's so many things. There's so many things. I think the biggest thing is probably, uh laziness and distractions. You allow distractions to um uh deter you from seeing the bigger picture and getting this money that you could be getting. So instead of doing that, you just stay complacent, lazy, lack of ambition. So yeah, y'all just lazy. That's I'm just gonna go with lazy. I'm gonna summarize that and say y'all lazy.
All right, you came in kind of hot today, but nah, there's definitely some laziness in there, But one of the biggest things I do see, like when people are not advancing in their career, is their personality. It's like their inability to work well with others. So that I think that's probably one of the biggest things that off the rip I see people where they're kind of like standoffish. They come in the workforce and they're so kind of used to they have that entitlement. They're so used to kind of getting their way and stuff like that, that when they have to, be part of a team or, they have to start executing and working with others, they, pour that like negativity into the rest of the team. So, after a while, people kind of label those people as like, all right, so and so, they can't really work well with others. Everybody's walking on eggshells around them. So they kind of start isolating that person. So when those like promotions and stuff come around, most of the time when you start advancing into like leadership roles, people are kind of like, okay, well, you got to start working with others and influencing people. And how are you going to mentor people if, you lack the personality skills, or the people skills, you're not really going to excel in that arena. So I think that's one of the major ones.
Oh yeah, I can agree with personality. Your personality sucks, especially if you're lazy.
So you tied everything to laziness today, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the second major ones that I also see is like people come in there with like preconceived notions where like I see it a lot of times, even with like within our community, where they're coming into the workplace and it's just like, well, everybody's against me. They already think of me like this way. So it's kind of like they start operating within a silo, and started kind of excluding themselves from the groups, networking and stuff like that. So also see that also having a big impact on people, like thinking people are against them, just off the rip, not even giving people a chance to like kind of come in and show them anything and stuff like that. So I think like personality and coming in there with that type of mindset also, holds people back to a certain degree, because it is like you got to start coming in networking and finding ways to like personalize yourself. Like for example, I met one gentleman one time I came into work. I saw he liked NASCAR and stuff. I'm like, hey, you like NASCAR? Have you ever been here? I started researching some stuff. So, trying to find ways to personalize it. I look for sports memorabilia. I'm like, oh, okay, you're so-and-so fans. What do you think about this like NFL season? So a lot of people won't even like take those steps to like try to build those inroads and stuff. And, like I said, they start walking around kind of being hermits and stuff in the office. So, I'm rambling. Go ahead, man. If you want to
No,
piggyback
you're
on
good.
anything.
You're good. No, that's actually really good solutions and techniques to, personalize things and make yourself more relatable to somebody. I think especially in the workforce, people promote who they can, um enjoy being around. So that's I mean, that's the truth. As you get higher and higher in the hierarchy, of the job, you'll start to see people not necessarily looking the same, but having a very similar mindset. And it's not that they're trying to hire people that look exactly like them. It's just that they're just going to be more relatable to people that kind of look and act like them. Um, if you had the option to work with somebody, would you rather work with somebody you could see a friendship with, or would you rather work with somebody who's cold, callous, and you would never even be in the same room with them if you didn't have to? I mean, that's a rhetorical question. I think we can all agree that we rather work with somebody that's um that we enjoy being around. So I mean, that's what you kind of see in the workplace. So that's an absolutely great technique to notice your surroundings, notice and see points in which you can make things relatable to somebody. So I like that.
Yeah, I also think like just even from like a hiring manager, perspective, like people got terrible resumes. I also see that. I think
Oh,
that's definitely a big impact where, people have a problem like I say marketing themselves because that's what your resume pretty much is. So, they don't pull out like all the like duties or I'll say responsibilities that they may have. It's like they kind of water it down. They put like one or two bullet points and they expect you to like extrapolate their skills and all that other stuff, within the resume. So that's probably one of the biggest things. So, you want to
yeah.
tap into that.
Yeah,
I
no,
know.
no, that's funny. That's funny that you mentioned resumes. There was a point in my career where I worked as a management analyst, and I was on over a staffing a couple staffing contracts, and so I would constantly see these resumes come in, and I've seen PhD resumes, I've seen people without any education beyond high school resumes, and that is a big factor because I've seen some resumes to where the point where it's just like, why did you even do this? Like, it was more comical than uh like you're not getting considered for this. And even some of the some of the people with PhDs, they might have a PhD, but their resume is thin. All that schooling taught them how to write really well, but that lack of experience was a detriment. Like, hey, I'd rather hire a guy without a college degree but has 4 years military experience, because on his resume it's heavy. It's like he actually did certain things, and he broke it down. He explained his role. He explained the mission, and how he you know was an impact to a successful mission. And yeah, those type of people get hired faster than even the person who has all this time and money invested into their career. And that's not even getting to be the personality. This is just on paper. So resumes, absolutely. If 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 you are applying to jobs and you're not getting any hits, you may want to invest in seeking professional help writing your resume. It will do wonders for you, because the resume is the first part. You can't even get considered for a job if that resume is looking too weak. So I like what you said about the resume. So maybe they're not all lazy.
No, but
Maybe
I
some
mean,
people just don't have the right resume.
nah, it's definitely some of that. But I like what you mentioned, like getting a resume writer. And a lot of times people give me pushback because, like I remember, when I was getting my resume writer, I was getting an executive one because, like, for executive stuff, you have to have certain elements in there and it's
Hmm.
got to be addressed a certain way. People want like certain things, like you have to address it in your resume. So, I spent quite a bit on my resume. So when I was telling people, they were like, I
How
can't
much you
believe you
spend?
spent that. Huh?
You care to share how much you spent on your resume? Did
Probably over 1,000, but I mean that same resume, it made me over, I would say like 60,000,
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
in
No,
one
see that
swoop, when you get a
that's an
promotion.
investment in yourself. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. So, when I tell people that on the flip side, now they're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, maybe I would go spend that money. But it's like, you got to invest it, like you said, invest in yourself. And, that resume is going to live with you throughout your career. So, I go there
Mhm.
multiple times whenever I get like new tasks that I need to update. Even though I know how to write it myself, it's just like you said, it's good to have that another set of eyes, that person, because what they tend to do is like they'll ask you questions. They know how to
Mhm.
capture, what your responsibilities, your duties and stuff, and translate it into words and stuff. Where, I struggled with it at first, trying to capture all that stuff. So yeah, somebody mentioned to me, they're like, go get that resume writer, So one of the best investments I ever made in my life. I know I mentioned it to you and a couple other people. So,
Yeah.
definitely like what you were saying, definitely go down that path.
Yeah.
But
Early in my career, I would I would actually I would go to resume workshops on my lunch break. I was
nerd.
fortunate to work
No,
in
I'm
a
just-
I was fortunate to work, in a agency where, every occasionally they'd have, different resume workshops. And I, set up, my lunch to actually go there and just, you know, hear what it's like um on the other side of the people receiving the resumes. And, it significantly helped me because I went from, you know, liking my job and being in a great position to, wanting more. And that resume was key because, I was going to resume workshops and then, submitting for different jobs and wasn't getting any hits. And then after going to the different resume workshops, it was just like a little tweak that I needed to do. And it wasn't the content, it was just the formatting. And, by changing that little formatting, it yeah, the rest is history. It just shot me up.
Let me ask you a question, because I remember back in the, when we were like managing that staffing contract, and we would get resumes in. You was pretty hard on them resumes because I'd be like, yeah, man, let's pick this person up. Let's give him a chance. You were like, nah. It's like a bad resume, like a pet peeve for you or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is. It is just simply for the fact I spent so many hours in the lab, crafting my own. And even with my experience managing some staffing contracts, I had to see so many resumes. And when I would come across a really good resume, I would, hey, I put it in a folder, look at it, and then tweak my resume to like, whether it was just the formatting, whether the formatting just caught my eye or just the way that it was structured or even some of the verbiage. I'm like, man, that verbiage is amazing. Let me let me reword that and put that in mind. And eh, you know, when you see a superior resume, it really stands out. So I wanted my resume to have that same, effect. So yeah, no, not just laziness. You're not advancing your career. Your resume might be like, we might need to do a whole video on resumes in the future. Just
Yeah, no, absolutely. We need to break it down because I think it is
yeah.
key, man. It's like I never realized like how much like like you said, like putting in that money and getting it right, getting, building it out, how many like advancements I got because of that resume, and it's to the point where I was like turning down jobs because it was like floating out there and stuff like that. Whereas it's like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna ride this out a little bit.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when you're turning down options and stuff like that, that's kind of the position you want to be in. But there's one more point I wanted to hit on, and definitely stepping outside of your comfort zone. I think that's one of the major things also that impacts a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
people. And what I mean by that is just a lot of times people just want like a specific, I say, niche of work or work stream. So like I remember, back in the day, you remember when I was gathering everybody up. I'm like, hey, let's go over here. Let me show you how to do certain aspects of the job. You was the only
Mhm.
one that would come and like take on
Right.
different responsibilities, and everybody else is like, nah, I'm comfortable, I'm busy, like, messing around, kind of playing around at the job and stuff. So I think a lot of times there's opportunity out there, but a lot of people just kind of low key want to chill out, or they don't want to take on no extra responsibilities and stuff like that. And, they miss out on, getting advancement because eventually you got to, if you want to move up into leadership roles, you got to have the technical back. And, we already mentioned like the personal skills that you're going to need to develop, but if you
Right.
don't develop, you're going to have to mentor people through their projects to make sure that they're completing them and stuff. So it's like, if you don't develop them skills, nobody's even going to be able to consider you, even if you have, like I said, all the personal skills and you're good with people, you do have to get the job done at the end of the day too. So I think that's a big one where people just get comfortable and they're just like, you know what, I don't want to take on too much right now. And when them cuts do come and happen, it's like if you got
Yeah.
basic level skills, those are like a lot of times the people that tend to go, because it's like you got to hold on to the people that can get like a lot of work done, that knows how to multitask. So you want to touch on that real quick?
Yeah, no, no. I think you covered everything with that specifically. You got to take opportunities when they're presented in front of you, and you're absolutely right. A lot of people don't want to step outside of their comfort zone because they're comfortable. It's a place that they're familiar with and that they recognize and they understand what's going to happen, and you know, but you know with stepping outside of your comfort zone, it really showcases your ability to grow, and it allows you to reach levels of growth that you just wouldn't be able to do without stepping outside of that box called comfort. But yeah, you covered it, man.
But let me ask you a question, because since I did mention, like, you were always willing to take on work and learn stuff. What kind of put you in that mindset to be like receptive like that? Because like I mentioned, I was like reaching out to like 100 people damn near, and it was like you and another personnel were like the only
Yeah.
two like out of that group that was like excited about like jumping into the pits and learning different things. So what kind of like, what were you thinking? I guess I'm asking.
Honestly, I was just going to speak on myself, but I know exactly the individual you're referring to, and I was about to speak just solely on myself, but reflecting on what I know of him, like he was also an athlete too. So he was a college football player, um, and I played sports my entire life, and it's really that constructive criticism, and being able to understand that you're not, you can always be better, right? So it's a constant um, journey of continual improvement. So stepping out of your comfort zone is just a part of the process. So, for other people, they may have seen it's like, oh no, I don't do that. But, for me and the individual that, you're referring to, we seen it as an opportunity. Like, hey, this is an opportunity for us to grow, to get a different level of insight on the job in which, we perform. And then specifically the opportunities, that was presented for me, it gave me a chance to go back and go back to the other side and kind of flex a little bit too. So there's a little bit of there's a little bit of ego in there. It's like come back like, hey, yeah, so yeah, you guys need something. I'm the guy now. Like I used to be on y'all side, but now I'm on this side. Like I make it happen over here now. You guys got to go through me. So it was a little bit of that too. So I can't just say it was solely just for my stepping out of my comfort zone, but I understood the process on the other side. So it was, I looked at it as like such a great opportunity for me to um, be able to answer some of their questions, because sometimes they have some very complex questions that somebody that's always been on our side wouldn't really have the you know uh wouldn't know the intricacies from seeing the process on their side. So I had both sides, so it was just like it was just a great opportunity to showcase my knowledge. So I kind of an ego trip, but it was cool. It was cool. So I really enjoyed that. um
So like just looking back at your like career advancement, because you moved up kind of quick, would you say that having that mindset was like very critical to like where you're at now, like your path of success?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would say probably the biggest, my biggest skill to moving up so quickly was, being able to just listen, you know, because I didn't move fast because of me. I moved fast because, I surrounded myself around people you know, who gave great information, and I took it and ran with it. Um Not to get too personal, but I always reflect on like a changing moment in my life where I was talking to a gentleman who was only like 2 years older than me, but he was making 100,000 he was making a little over 100,000 at the time, and I was still in the like 30,000 range. And
Damn.
Yeah.
Weren't you working at
Nah.
IHOP?
No, I was in a suit, everything, but I was only in the 30,000 range, and I had told him, um, I didn't tell him about my salary, but he was just, he was coming to me for like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? And I was explaining it to him, and he was just like, what do they actually have you doing here? Like, what is your official title? And then I explained it to him, and he was just like, and then he just flat out asked me like, well, how much are you making? And I told him, and he was just like, oh, no, 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 that's not good. Like, he's like, I'm gonna make a call, and so he made a call. 2 weeks later, I'm in front of you know, somebody with some real authority and position of power, and I would say 2 weeks after that, my salary increased by 10,000, and I was doing, and I had a better job, a better title. I had an office. Like, it was just that quick. It off of like just being receptive to like helping him and like staying late. And he seen that, and he was just like, "Oh, you're doing all this work. You're actually doing the job of XYZ, but you're getting paid this." And yeah, so that jump started, that 10,000 jump, 2 years later, another 20,000. And the rest is history. Pretty soon I was making over 100,000, just like him. And this was in my 20s, so I'm in my 30s now. So yeah, it was it's not it's not about um it's not about just you. It's about the people around you. And, are you a likable person? Are you, because you spoke on this personality, are you willing to be receptive? Are you not lazy? Are you willing to step out of your comfort zone? And there's times we all get stuck in a rut, but I think keeping a positive attitude is probably the best way to grow in your career, because despite what people around you are saying, if you still show up to work with good effort and keep a positive attitude, you know, people will take notice to that. And even if they can't do anything for you in that position, somebody might leave and recall how positive you were and say, "Hey, I want to work with a person like that," and they might pull you with them. Because I know, I know when you got your when you got some of your promotions, because you was flying too, man. Like, like I remember when they were like, "Oh man, you're gonna apply for that?" And everybody was like, "No, no," and you were like, "Yeah, I'm applying for it," and then you got it, left, and you pulled a lot of people. You pulled all the great people.
Yeah, they was mad as shit. They were like, "Man,
Yeah.
how you gonna pull everybody?" But now, one thing I definitely wanted to touch on and kind of piggyback off of what you're saying, it's just like the people skills. I don't think people understand like how critical that is. And even now to this point, because now I'm directing managers and directors. I'm a couple levels above that, and I would hire personality over technical skills any day. Like I would, if somebody was just like had good people skills and they were a little organized and maybe they lacked in like the technical capacity, I'm gonna pick them up because I just understand like if you get that person that doesn't have people skills, they're gonna like drive a lot of people off, and it's gonna be like a revolving door. Even when I'm looking at like my personnel, selections, I'm like I need to pick them up also because they're gonna you know keep people there. They're gonna interact with the customer base or the program offices a little differently. So yeah, nah, people skills is definitely important. And then, I like what you were talking about as far as like, stepping out of that comfort zone, taking on them tasks, start working in with people and you're bringing that positive energy. People are going to market you to like other groups, even though they might hate to lose you, people are going to start like mentioning your name in circles. And like I was mentioning before, like couple people reached out to me. They're like, "Hey, some of your coworkers are your peers, people that you manage. They were talking about your leadership style, and we need somebody like you over here. They said you'll be great to take on this mission." I was like, "Nah, I'm good at this point." But
Yeah.
just to have people speaking your name out there in your career fields definitely rings volumes and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm with you. People skills is definitely critical. I do have one last question. Well, two last questions. So out of all the like things that we mentioned, and you kind of hit on this a little bit, what would you say holds people back the most?
Um, Honestly, if I could drop it down to one thing, I would say attitude. Um, it's just this attitude of I can't break past this barrier. And this attitude I feel like is not necessarily, you know, how most people feel. I think this is, an attitude that's like, kind of ingrained, by people who surround themselves with negative people. So you can have a person who's working, doing their job, and they're pretty relatively happy. But if they start hanging around somebody who has such a negative outlook on things, you know, and they can be influenced to, having, a negative outlook on a job in which that they were perfectly fine with and happy. So if I had to break it down to one thing, I think what holds people back the most is their attitude. You know, at the end of the day, a job is a job, a career is a career, but you're there to do the work. You know, um, I get the whole like, follow your passion and, you'll never work a day in your life. It sounds good, but, bills need to be paid. And especially if you want a certain lifestyle. And I think people take that for granted and think that the job that they have should be something that they absolutely love. No, you shouldn't be focused. Me personally, I don't believe that you should be focused on doing a job that you love. I think that you should be focused on getting a job that allows you to build the necessary skill sets that are going to, be beneficial into your life personally.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, I
So
definitely
changing your
think like
attitude, lowering your expectations, honestly.
yeah. No, it's just fairy tale-ish, like you said. I mean, I think
There's a
when
lot of
people
prima
say that,
donnas out here.
it makes sense. Like if you win a lottery or something, you got like the dream job that maybe you got like because of your family or something, but everybody else is like, man, get that shit out your head. Like you
Yeah.
just need to work and be consistent with it.
Mhm.
But all right, yeah, I agree with you. I think personality is probably the biggest one, and we both touched on that. So we'll go ahead and move to the solution phase, like we always do, provide some solutions. So, what are some of the things people can do to improve, in these areas and career advancement?
Um, Definitely, I would say, speak to career professionals that have made it. Um, because that's one good thing about a job is that uh every job has some sort of hierarchy. And with that being said, it's outlined. So there's a guy who's at the very top, there's a guy who's slightly below him, you know, work up that chain of command to as high as you can. And you know, if you want to improve to, get career growth, speak to your direct chain. And if maybe you're not the coolest with your supervisor, maybe figure out a way to go a step above them. Um, just for a request to be a shadow, or request 15 minutes of their time to allow them to tell you their story of how they got to where they are. Because taking a genuine interest in your um in leadership, it's flattering for one, and you'll be put on their radar as somebody who's actually looking for growth. So when they think about a new position coming available, they're going to have you in mind because they're going to be like, hey, this person actually wanted to do this. So instead of me putting this out, maybe I'll talk to this person and see if they're qualified. And, you might be a shoe in for a position. And damn sure for certain, if your resume is in the top qualifications and somebody else's resume is in top qualifications, that little that 15-minute conversation that you had with him, a year ago or 2 years ago or whatever, or 6 months ago, that might be the determining factor of you getting that job versus that other person. So it's like you got to seize opportunity.
No, I like that. Yeah, I'll say one of the major things you could do to improve your situation is, make yourself an asset and make yourself where you can't be replaced because if you jump out there, kind of like what you were mentioning with your experience, and I kind of had you outline that for a reason because I think a lot of people get complacent or they don't want to step outside their comfort zone. And it's just like when you go out there, you start assisting people with their task and you make life easier for people and you bring that positivity, they're going to start looking at you like, I can't replace this person. Not only do they do
Yeah.
the work, they keep that the morale high. They
Yeah.
also, they're efficient with their stuff. Like I ain't
Mhm.
got to go there. If I give them some feedback, they're not going to crumble under the
Yeah,
they know
those
how
are
to
good
take
points.
constructive criticism. So, it's just like you make life easier for them because 9 times out of 10, if you're managing like multiple people, you're going to have some problem childs. And
Yeah.
that person that like simplifies life for them and they don't have to, have another problem on their hands, they're gonna be like, hey, whatever this person wants, I'm giving it to them bonuses, whatever time off awards, whatever they do, at your
Mhm.
job. And, a lot of times, like I was just looking at the whole layoffs they were having over there in San Francisco Valley and stuff like that. I was looking at some of them people were working like an hour out a day, just comfortable, just like not doing no work. And to me, that's crazy. Like, hey, if everybody else is doing like only an hour of work, I'm at least gonna, do 4, So it's like, look at what people are doing, man. Do more than what they're doing, even though it might be fun, they're getting over, don't take that bottom tier position where it's just like, well, everybody else is doing this and make yourself comfortable because if you don't develop your skill sets and your productivity is low, when people start looking at them numbers, they're gonna look at you like, all right, all y'all can go. I can replace all y'all,
Yeah.
because you start having that sense of entitlement. So yeah, I definitely say like volunteer, get your hands on different projects because the quicker you build your skill sets up, you can start applying for those higher positions. You can speak to the level of work that they need or the level of skill sets that will be required for that job. So yeah, I
Yeah.
would say definitely take that approach.
Yeah.
But all right, man, you got anything else you want to add in on this?
No, no, no. Other than like the personality, attitude, fix your personality. Um, and work on it. You know, don't come to work with a negative outlook. If you come to work, oh, I know it's a Monday and nobody wants to be there on a Monday, but you know, put on that smile. Do the work. You know, show that you are working with intention and that you're working towards something because you are. You're working towards your future. And if you have children, you're working towards um, your legacy. And even if you don't have children, you might have children in the future. So you're still working towards your
Mhm.
legacy. So, always keep that in mind because a lot of times we can all reflect on the past and think how we would have wanted to do things a little differently. And so I think we got to be aware that the past is the present, you know. So in your presence, you gotta put in the work and you'll have a better future. So fix your attitude, smile more, stay positive, don't spread no negativity in the workplace, and you will be a desirable, highly sought after employee. And then hopefully you will advance to being a boss, like
Just
me
real
and the
quick, I
Dirk.
like what you mentioned about legacy and also like in your mind, you might not think you want advancement and stuff like that because you might be comfortable where you're at. But one of the things I do a lot of like financial stuff with people for as far as like retirement also, and they're decimated when they get to that age where they got to start pulling out the money because they never properly planned. And one of the things I always hear consistently is like, man, if I go back, I would have done things differently. I would have chased those higher tier grades, pulled in more funds for my 401k or my retirement. So it's just like you got to start thinking long term, like you was mentioning earlier. It's just like, sometimes the whole like fantasy stuff, like chase your dream job and all that. It's just like, hey, the reality is when you get older and you want to retire, it costs money. So
Mhm.
like if you keep yourself at certain stages and you're not, bringing that money in, you're not hitting them higher tiers. It's just like you're going to pay that penalty on the back end. And a lot of times that's where you see a lot of people just go out to some of these like supermarkets and stuff. You see a lot of older people like working at them. And, I try to stop and talk to them. They'll let you know, like, man, I wish I could go back. I messed up. So it's like you don't get that reset button in life. So a lot of times, even with myself, I was like, I forced myself. Like, even if I wanted to chill out, I'm like, you know what, let me push it because I do want to retire one day. I want a certain quality of life. I don't know if I'm gonna need medicine at that point, whatever, but I'm gonna make sure, all my stuff is, gonna be in line because I do want to pass on money, like you were saying, to my legacy and stuff like that. So that's just one thing to be cautious because it's like you might not want it, but sometimes you got to think above yourself, especially, if you want to impact your legacy. All right, we'll go ahead and close it unless you want to add anything else.
Nope. Follow me on IG.
All right,
That's it.
lazy people, Manic don't like you.
Nope, don't like you.
Get it together.
Step
But
out
all
your
right, we'll
comfort
close this.
zone.
All right, good for life. All right, peace.